And so we believe that there should be a bit of a republic there ahead, besides your bank, and not only we are bringing it back, we have also a view of the truly focus on growth with the full world, which can also be so I would say that that's the kind of largest programs but unless make no mistake, this is still a volatile and situation for so that's a good argument for the businesses, but it's still a lot of accumulated more baggage along the way.
Xi Jinping praised for his perception of socialism in the new era as China's Communist Party wraps up a key political meeting. He has been dubbed the helmsman of China's rejuvenation. Myanmar's military court sentences U.S. journalist Denny Fenster to 11 years jail for incitement and violating laws on immigration and unlawful association. Also, a new draft documentary on the UN Climate Summit in Glasgow appears to show a weakening in the language around phasing out fossil fuels on the final day of COP26. Rapid transitioning from coal-based energy to clean energy will be needed for Southeast Asia to reach its climate goals. One way of achieving this is through the Energy Transition Mechanism, a new initiative by the Asian Development Bank announced during COP26. Under the scheme, coal plants in Asia will be bought and retired, reducing emissions and encouraging a transition to renewables. Vice President of the Asian Development Bank, Ahmed Said, explains the challenge to juggle between wanting to slash emissions and supporting development for Asian countries still reliant on fossil fuels.
I don't think it's a simple challenge to do that because the scale of the challenge is enormous. We're talking about a transition of the entire global energy system against a backdrop of countries that are trying to grow and improve the livelihoods of their people. And as we know, energy is civilization. It's central to economic growth and to human flourishing. And so getting this right isn't simple as we watch what's going on in COP, where there's a number of very difficult conversations going on. I think that's a reflection of the complexity of the challenge. That's actually one of the reasons why we set up the energy transition mechanisms, because we felt that there were many statements of ambition, but once you sort of got down to the ground reality level, because things are complicated, because you have to deal with the local political context, because you have to deal with international expectations, there are actually very few practical solutions. And we feel that our energy transition mechanism in that way fills a gap in the international architecture for dealing with energy transition, where you have these grand statements of ambition and these big promises, but somebody's got to help translate them into real action and a real difference in the ground in a way that's consistent with the expectations of local actors. And that's what we're trying to do with the energy transition mechanism.
China has approved trials for the use of a locally developed mRNA COVID-19 vaccine as a booster shot. Authorities say this could widen the options for the country's vaccination campaign. The trials are being conducted on adults who have been given vaccines made using inactivated material from the coronavirus. Unlike traditional jabs, mRNA vaccines use advanced genetic techniques to trigger an immune response. The new Chinese vaccine is being tested in a global multi-site final stage human trial. Scientists are hoping to recruit about 30,000 participants. Trial participants in Mexico have already been inoculated in September and in Malaysia last month. The Chinese vaccination program has relied heavily on inactivated vaccines. Past research has shown mRNA vaccines can help boost immunity. Well, Hong Kong has ended quarantine exemptions for senior executives, bankers, and most other groups from today. The city is tightening its already strict COVID-19 policies as it works towards opening the border with mainland China. A limited quarantine-free travel to Guangdong is set to resume as early as the middle of next month. CNA's Roland Lim with this report.
Pressure has been steadily mounting on Hong Kong authorities to work towards reopening the border, particularly for many residents who have business and family ties on the mainland. Hong Kong businessman Man Lee runs a cross-border service for Hong Kong businesses wanting to participate in the mainland's ambitious Greater Bay Area initiative that involves Hong Kong, Macau, and 11 other Chinese cities.
咁因為嗰個疫情嘅影響啦，咁啊令到即係封關啦，封關令到我哋嘅生意啦，其實係災難性嘅，係災難性嘅，因為嗰個要隔離14日，去隔離14日啦，變咗有好多準備去大陸嘅內地去發展嘅港，即係港人港企啦，咁啊變咗咧就成本就高好多。成本中高好多，佢哋就變咗唔願意喺呢個階段去內地發展。
Business is down 8% compared to before the border closure. Used to freely traveling across the border
以快啲由希望嘅獨步通關都好，獨步通關可以有3000個名額都好，係嘛？3000個名額咁起碼都係開放住，有部分人可以用，都可以帶動一下嘅經濟，係咪？而家自由行又好，外國去旅行，外國去香港嘅遊客又好。
In Hong Kong, authorities have provided no timetable to fully vaccinate the population, as it aligns closer to the mainland's zero-COVID strategy. 70% or more of its adults will be vaccinated by the year end, but its most vulnerable group, the elderly, only has a 60% vaccination. Ben Cowley, an infectious diseases expert at the University of Hong Kong, consider Hong Kong's long-term zero-COVID strategy a workable option.
So you have Hong Kong surrounded by this imaginary wall, defence to stop the virus from getting into the community, and then the quarantine hotels, the airport, maybe the container terminal are outside, not inside the wall. They're outside, so anyone who's working there is also effectively working outside the wall. If they want to come back in, they themselves need to do a quarantine.
That means the city will continue with its strict mandatory quarantine regime. Most arrivals have to undergo between 14 and 21 days of quarantine, one of the strictest in the world. There have been a few exemptions. Diplomats, business leaders, and some mainlanders with Hong Kong resident cards have been able to skip quarantine or isolate at home. But not any longer from November 12th. The European Union and Hong Kong has welcomed the city's moves to reopen its borders with China, but also stressed that reopening its borders to global travelers is equally important. Meantime, the US consulate is also calling on the Hong Kong government to come up with a roadmap for global travelers. Roland Lim, CNA, Hong Kong.
Two foreign athletes have tested positive for COVID-19 at trial events for the Beijing Winter Olympics. The athletes are among 1,500 competitors and staff who arrived in China for the test events since early October. But China is struggling to contain local outbreaks with the games less than 100 days away. Beijing continues to adopt a zero-tolerance approach against COVID-19, even as other nations lift coronavirus restrictions. Entry to the country is restricted, and all visitors must quarantine in a hotel for at least 2 weeks upon arrival. Officials say both athletes compete in the luge events and are
mangrove forests have been lost in the last few decades, and climate change is only one of several culprits. Vietnam is now the third largest exporter of fishery products in the world, but the expansion of its aquaculture sector has come at the expense of mangrove forests and their biodiversity. Many have been cut down to make way for shrimp and fish farms, which also pollute coastal ecosystem with fertilizer and antibiotic waste.
Phát triển kinh tế xã hội thì cũng tạo nên những cái áp lực rất là lớn vào cái diện tích sử dụng ngập mặn, vì chúng ta thấy là nhu cầu về phát triển nuôi trồng thủy hải sản thì có thể nâng cao cái giá trị xuất khẩu của Việt Nam sang thị trường quốc tế, cũng như là những nhu cầu với cái số lượng dân số ngày càng tăng thì nhu cầu về đất ở, rồi về những cái diện tích trồng trọt hay là những cái diện tích mà có thể xây dựng những cái khu cảng tại Việt Nam để phát triển cho kinh tế thì cũng tạo ra những cái sức ép không nhỏ đối với cả rừng mặn Việt Nam của chúng ta.
Some coastal communities in Vietnam are now trying to reverse this damage. Southern Kebon province is home to the country's largest mangrove forests, and farmers here have been planting young trees in 2018 to restore the mangrove stands they've lost. With technical and financial support from international donors, such as the United Nations Development Program, local farmers are provided with young trees to plant in designated mangrove areas. They're also trained in organic production techniques to sustainably cultivate shrimps and crabs in these areas. The products of these techniques help support livelihoods and protect mangrove forests at the same time.
Nuôi tôm sinh thái thì nó có mấy cái lợi hơn cái nuôi tôm thông thường là một là được hỗ trợ con giống hàng năm, cái thứ hai nữa là nó kết hợp hài hòa với rừng tôm thì thực hiện cái quy định tỷ lệ rừng tỷ lệ tôm thì 6 rừng 4 tôm, cho nên sau này khi 20-13 năm sau thì khai thác rừng nó thu nhập được một số tiền đáng kể, cái giá bán nó cao hơn cái giá tôm thông thường. 1 ký được cao